Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this morning's webinar, all about marketing to Tier 1 and Tier 2 suppliers. I'd first like to thank very much Hammersmith and Fulham for sponsoring these talks, which are all aimed to help you to leverage relationships with the local Tier 1 and Tier 2 opportunities which are open to businesses in the Hammersmith and Fulham area. This morning's webinar is all going to be focusing around LinkedIn and how to use that to maximise your opportunities to develop business relationships and sales with that kind of audience. So a little bit about the programme. This is the Fit to Bid programme. It's all designed to help you win more contracts in your local area, and today I'm going to be focusing on developing your relationships via LinkedIn, although there are plenty of other routes to market for you which are covered in some of the other webinars. Right, so this morning's talk, I'll give you a quick run through the agenda. I'm going to cover an introduction to LinkedIn for those who are not familiar with it. Go through Sales Navigator, give you an introduction to it, and follow up with the approach and how to message, and finally to connect and build relationships. So let me move on quickly and let you know a little bit about myself. So my name's Nicola Ryle. I'm a marketing strategist working within Branduin. I have cut my teeth in a number of different areas. I started off, believe it or not, as a civil servant before moving into marketing, where I worked for American Express and Coca-Cola, before setting up my own marketing agency, which I have run for over 30 years. I also run my own business, which is a family business, which I inherited from my father a couple of years ago, which is an international export business working in leadership skills. Finally, I was a founder member of the Branduin Business Support, which offers support to businesses right throughout the southeast of England, working extensively with local authorities, chambers of commerce, and local businesses to develop and grow. So let me tell you a little bit more about LinkedIn, a few stats for you. And I would encourage you, if you've got questions, to pop them in the chat, and then hopefully I can answer them as we go along. And I am intending to make this fairly interactive, so I would encourage you to respond, because I can help as we're going through. Okay, so a few stats for you. LinkedIn originally started in 2003. We feel like it's been here forever and ever, but actually 2003, so it's less than 20 years old. And since it started as a job market, it now has over 800 million members worldwide. Now, starting as a job market, it principally was a vehicle for putting in potential employees with potential employers. But obvious logical jump from that is to put people who need to buy services in touch with people offering those services, or potentially intermediaries in between. And that is how it is used very widely at the moment. So not only is it a job market, but it's also a marketplace, a networking place to meet people who might be interested in purchasing your services, or for you to find people who could supply you. Interestingly, despite the relative populations, UK is a very, very big user of LinkedIn. So China is a massive country, but actually, although it's one of the top actual raw figures of 52 million, that's a drop in the ocean in comparison with the UK, where a huge percentage of the working population have a presence. Now, interestingly, LinkedIn is one of the most effective social media platforms when you're looking for generating business. It's probably the most effective for business to businesses selling. business to consumer, obviously that has a much wider and more, Facebook and Insta will work quite well for you. But for the majority of business to business sales, which is what we're concentrating on today, we are talking about LinkedIn as being the premier platform for you. So 80% of all social media leads come from LinkedIn. So that is why, if you're going to go down social media route of any sort, if you're working in the business to business arena, LinkedIn is the first and most important platform where you put the majority of your efforts. And finally, 90% of people will check your LinkedIn profile before they meet you. So if you book an appointment with somebody, you will find that they've checked you out on LinkedIn first, almost certainly. And certainly I always do that. And that is why it is really, really important for you to have a fantastic looking profile. And that's where we're going to start, is looking at your profile, because that's a very important element. You want to put your best foot forwards, and we know that if you're going to a face-to-face networking event, or you're going to a meet the buyer opportunity, then you are going to dress smartly, go with your business cards, put your best foot forward. LinkedIn needs to operate exactly in the same way for you, but in the virtual arena. So I've talked about the size of the number of people on LinkedIn, and you said, well, okay, what does that really mean in the Hammersmith and Fulham area? So let's have a quick look at that for you now. Okay, so this is the Hammersmith and Fulham catchment area, and I have taken the centre of Hammersmith as my starting spot. So I don't know if anyone wants to put a little guess, but how many people on LinkedIn 1 mile of the town hall of Hammersmith? Any ideas? Do you want to put a number into the chat? While you're thinking about that, I'll just reiterate that there will be a recording. This is being recorded, so you will be able to have access to it afterwards, and I will circulate my presentation afterwards. 100,000, 2,000, 800, 225,000. That's very, very widespread. Okay, so let me put you out of your misery. 1 mile, 170,000 people are on LinkedIn. So you don't really need to go very far to find potential people to work with. Yeah, wow, I agree with you, Michael. It's a fantastic platform to reach people who are literally on your doorstep, but you didn't even know were there. Now, you could say to me, yeah, but that could be any old people. How do how I will come on to how to find a similar map and numbers right towards the end, because I'm going to cover that for you, Ahmed. Right, so how many of these are decision makers? That's what we really need to know. 64,000 of those people are at a senior level. They're decision makers in that area. So we aren't talking about the junior ranks, but we are talking about getting in touch with people who make decisions. So how many people, I guess, have tried phoning the switchboard of a large company, tried to get through to the CEO? Impossible. But they're sitting there on LinkedIn and you can send them a message. How cool is that? So let me explain from my point of view. I live in Chorleywood in Hertfordshire, which is just a bit south of Watford. For those of you who don't know the area terribly well, that spot is where my office is. And what about from my office then? I don't like travelling a long way to see my clients, and I like them to be able to drop in for a cup of tea from time to time. So there's 47,000 members within 5 miles of my office. There's plenty of people there to be a client, and that's the most important thing as far as I'm concerned. And of those, there's 390,000 within 10 miles. I used to travel an hour and a half just to go and see clients. What a ridiculous waste of time when I could be traveling much, much less time, or even walking to see them. over 50,000 are first or second connections. So let me explain what a first and second connection is. So a first connection is somebody I have reached out to, or they have reached out to me, and we are connected on LinkedIn. A second connection are people that I am not connected to directly, but they're connections of somebody I know. So for example, I see Noshir is here. He is a first connection of mine. I'm not connected with Lisa. But if I wanted to be connected to Lisa, I could go to Noshir, who's a first connection, and say, please, would you introduce me to Lisa? And he said, I'm delighted, Nicola. And now I'm in touch with Lisa directly. So if I wanted to meet somebody, thank you, Noshir. I'm looking forward to you doing that in 10 minutes, okay? So that's how that operates. And it's a really useful thing to be able to do, to know who your second connections are. Okay, 20,000 of those people are decision makers. Okay, so that's really important. Those are the people that I want to reach to be able to sell my marketing skills to. Finally, a little word of warning and why you need to be careful with the way you put your LinkedIn profile together. There are 42 managing directors. Now, I cannot believe that managed to get through without doing a little spell check. So make sure that you get somebody else how to proofread your LinkedIn profile to spot any little mistakes like that, because it's ever so easy to mess that one up. Okay, so moving on. How are we going to reach all of these people? How do you get hold of them? Do you just post and pray, or do you reach out on an individual basis? Well, let's start off with some of the basics. So LinkedIn is a virtual networking tool. So it's important that you behave on it in the same way as you would if you were working face-to-face at either a chamber event or a local authority event, such as a Meet the Buyer event. So you've got to be working in exactly the same way. So just as with real life networking on a face-to-face basis, you still need to follow it up. It's not you've put your net out there and you hope you catch fish. You've actually got to engage with it. And it isn't easy because you need to do this in a consistent manner. So we all know with marketing, that marketing requires, I think, on average, between 6 and 8 interactions before somebody will typically buy from you. The more complex your supply chain and your sales process is, the more touches you need. So you can't just reach out to somebody and then pray that they're going to purchase from you, because it's extremely unlikely that they will. You're going to have to keep working that relationship. Okay, so what do we need to do? We need to think about the advantages of using it as a networking tool. You have this opportunity to give so much more information. When you're meeting face to face, typically you have that 30-second stand-up pitch to say what you do, and everybody's forgotten because they weren't listening to you, because they were thinking about what they were going to say when it was their turn. On LinkedIn, you can write whatever you like, and it's all out there, and you can give plenty of information. You can choose when you interact with it, because you don't have to do it in real time. So you don't have to get up at 6:30 in the morning to go to your BNI meeting. You can do that at 11 o'clock at night if you're a night owl. It's a searchable engine. So like Google, you can search it to find people. It's great if you're a bit nervous when meeting people. So it's extremely useful for somebody who doesn't want to actually meet with somebody straight up front and walk into a room of 100 people. You can update it. So if I hand, say, Nauza, who's joined us today, my business card, he's got my business card. I changed my telephone number. He doesn't know that. On here, I can just go in and change it. Very handy. And it's always available. So if Nauza took it home, put it in a drawer, which is extremely likely, he might not know it's there. He will have forgotten it. Whereas this is searchable, findable, and all the rest of it. So this is your opportunity to demonstrate your expertise, your experience, and your knowledge. There are some disadvantages to LinkedIn, though. You can't show what a lovely person you are. So when you go into a networking meeting, you intuitively, naturally will smile at somebody to be welcoming. So if I smile at everybody here like this, quite a lot of you will have smiled back at me. This works every time. And the reason why we do that is because it's innate. You are born to respond in that way, to show that you are friendly. Now, smiling at people and being friendly and open helps to concrete this credibility that you are who you say you are and that you are expert, whereas it's much more difficult to do that on the flat written screen. If you haven't presented the information concisely and well, it might be difficult for them to find the bit of information that they specifically are looking for. So I'm going to give you some tips on that. And you need to look after it. It's ever so tempting to spend a whole shed load of time. So after today's meeting, you might go off and decide, I'm going to work on my LinkedIn profile. I'm going to make it absolutely perfect, and then not look at it for another 2 years, 3 years. I've met people who haven't looked at it for 10 years and their photo, you'd walk past them in the street. So very important you give it a bit of TLC. LinkedIn has regular software updates and they can catch you out. Famously, I went in to present, to do a presentation to a board of accountants in their boardroom, and I put that up LinkedIn on the screen live because that's the way you want to do it. And overnight, LinkedIn had done a software update and it didn't look anything like any of my notes, which was a little bit disconcerting, and it meant I had to find everything. So sometimes there are software updates and they contain bugs because they don't beta test them properly. I'm sure you would all be brilliant if you were IT experts. It's American, so the UK geography doesn't always work well. So watch out for that. You might need to find different ways of persuading it to understand where you are. Okay, so moving on. Is my profile important? Well, I've already explained that this is your opportunity to impress. It might be your first opportunity to impress. So it is really, really important that you look tip-top. Now, you want to appear like you are for a first and important meeting, because this is not for people who know you. This is for people who don't know you. So think about how you want to present yourself. One of the things I've just mentioned is that people are looking for credibility, and the first place they look for credibility is in your face. Is it happy? Is it engaging? Can they see the whites of your eyes? So I've done a little selection here of people from Heathrow Airport, just to give you an example. You can see instantly the people that you might want to do business with and the people you might not want to do business with. So Becky and Lewis haven't got a photo and immediately I don't trust them. That's before we've gone any further. So your photo clearly is going to be quite important. Some have given more information than others, and this is your opportunity to give the information that people are looking for top line. So this is person's name followed by their title. Okay, so it's really important to get these bits right. Here is an example of an accountant who works in a neighbouring town from me. Would I have anything to do with them? Absolutely not. They're clearly not with the times, and therefore I'm not interested in hiring them because they probably don't know anything about making tax digital. Okay, so as I was saying about your smile being the most important part of your profile, therefore it follows your photograph, your portrait is the most important part of your profile. So it'd be a good idea if you all just go and have a quick check on your profile what photo you've put up there. So we don't want a blank. This one's interesting because this is clearly taken on holiday. Just wanted to say some people don't allow anyone who's not a connection to see their photo. That is true. That is their prerogative. However, if you are wanting to sell to people, which is why I'm hoping you are here, you do want to see it. So just bear that in mind. People are more likely to buy from you if they can see who you are. Now, it is a choice, as with all things, and it's up to you. I tend to be very, very open. Have I had stalkers? Have I had people bombarding me with stuff? No, I haven't. And I've got a lot of connections, and all of my personal my mobile phone data is on my profile in the open domain. Do people phone me? No, they haven't. A shame, because I quite like to hear from some people. Okay, so this photo is not good enough for a number of reasons. One is it tells me he's wealthy enough to go and have a holiday on a boat. It might be his boat. And I also can't see him. So this is a true story. Procurement in a large £250 million turnover company in central London that I worked for. Procurement, whenever they got a tender in, looked at the profile of the managing director. If they were on an exotic holiday, they obviously charged too much and the tender was thrown out. If they were photographed in their garden or at a wedding, they couldn't be bothered to get a professional photo done, so they don't care about their business that much. So that was out too. Genuine story. They only went for people who actually looked professional on their LinkedIn profile. And that story dates back a good 10 years. So, you know, that's interesting. Even at that time, it was a problem. I'm going to come on to your question there, Denise, in a moment. Cartoons were very, very fashionable. Definitely don't do it. Now, this is my point. You are not a logo. And as a designer, you are not a design. There's plenty of other places where you can put illustrations of your work, but people buy from people, not from an illustration of any description. So definitely, Denise, go out and get a good photo of you. Okay. I'm not buying your graphic, I'm buying you. The graphic is actually less important at the end of the day, or whatever it is, whatever you design. Okay, this is getting better, but I still can't see him. This is a lovely photo, but on LinkedIn, the photo comes up very small. So you would be better off having a bigger amount of the space taken of the photo. So this is a picture of me, as I'm hoping you realise, although my hair is all tied back today. I've added some makeup. Gentlemen, when I'm taking photos of gentlemen, I do frequently add a bit of makeup just to bring out the colour really well, and also to stop any shiny capes, anybody who's a little bit thinner on the top. It's a good idea. Okay, so I don't care who you are or what you sell or what you do. If you want to sell on LinkedIn, you need a photo of yourself. The other thing which you want to look at is the photo which goes behind you. And this is a photo made up of 4 different parts. So it's got the logo, just to re-emphasize it. A photo of the product. So Denise, you could put a product here if you wanted. In front of it, we've added a picture of a girl to show scale, but also her lovely smiling face, because as I was saying earlier, smiling faces help sell things. And up here, we've got some information about what some sales information, if you like. Now, Graham happens to be ISO 14001 accredited, which is really unusual in the print industry and is a very important part of his selling process, which is why we've got it here illustrated. The other thing is, as I was saying, in the list that you looked at earlier, when you do a selection, it shows your job title, and that's your opportunity to put a little bit of sales blurb in here. So we've got large formats, displays to promote your brand, reliable, fast, and ISO 14001 service for the best eco-friendly display graphics. So that gives you a bit of an idea of what you could put there. So you've got quite a lot of space to put the information in. So titles, how do you choose your title? You could say, I am CEO at ABC Group, which tells me you're important. Doesn't tell me what you do, what you're good at. It doesn't tell me anything about what you're selling. So you could put, and this is the same individual, Managing director, or MD, anybody will be okay with that. Specialist in Wi-Fi networks, energy saving, structured cabling, EV points, and electrical contracting. Now you know exactly what this guy does. Really important for you to use that space well. So some quick tips for you. Use search terms. So in LinkedIn, there's a search bar. Put things in there which it can pick up. Show your expertise, which we've done here by specialist, and explain what you do. And the rest of it is explaining. So this is telling me very easily, this person's senior, good at his job, and does a whole pile of stuff in the electrical contracting area. Right, what I'd like you to do now is to think quickly what you could put in as your title to improve what you've got already. And maybe pop a couple in the chat as examples. I'll give you a minute to have a go at that. What if you're a freelancer and have multiple jobs? Could you list all of them? Okay, so for freelancers or consultants who may be working for more than one company, there's an experience section a bit further down, and you can list each of them separately. But this job title here, what I would do is, if you're a freelancer, you're typically a specialist or an expert or skilled in a particular area, drop the rank and which you've got there and just go for expert or specialist or consultant in, and then give the areas that you're particularly good at, Isabel. So I don't know what you're a freelancer in, but if you're in HR, you could actually say something about what you do in HR, or a trainer if you're a contractor of some kind. Whoops. That one's just disappeared. Registered support flower remedies practitioner, providing bespoke holistic treatments to balance emotional well-being. Okay, fantastic. If I have professional experience in another field which isn't related to my current design, is that okay? It depends whether you want to sell it. So think about what you're wanting to sell. So don't put stuff up there that you're not wanting to sell as a function. So for example, there's an awful lot of things I can do. Like I can do business to consumer marketing, perfectly capable of it. I don't like doing it particularly, so I tend not to focus on it. I tend to focus on strategy and business to business. So I don't put everything that I can do up there. I put where I've got. So I look at my profit margin. What do I want to sell? And I also think about what do people want to buy? So what is an easy way to engage with people? So those would be the things that I would focus on. Okay, so the next bit, which is quite important, in fact, very important, is your summary or the about section. Okay, so the about section is your opportunity to give a summary of yourself. So you've got experience further down where you can go into individual jobs, but the summary is a bit like telling them all of your skill set, which you've acquired over perhaps many years. So here is an example. Mike set up in business in 1993 as an electrical contractor under the name of MAP Electrics Limited, the company group, blah, 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 oh, CV. This is really, really tedious and is not going to sell anything to anybody because I've lost the will to live almost immediately. Bear in mind that on your about section on a PC, only the first 300 characters or so show. So they've got to leap off the page and grab you by the throat. And this is not going to do it for me. I have no idea really what he does and why he's doing it. So this is definitely a no-no. Same kind of role, this is a different individual that I found. Are you moving to a new office or expanding your network? Do you have problems with your internet connection speed or experiencing a persistently poor phone line? Then you probably need a skilled data cabling engineer. Interesting, those first 3 lines, he hasn't said anything about himself, but yet you've got a really good idea why you would want to use him already. And you're convinced, I'm sure, that he would do a good job. Then he goes on, here are 5 things I can do for you. Please contact me for no obligations, free site survey. I'll get back to you with a quote within 1 working day. Blimey, the difference between those 2 is immense, but what they're offering is exactly the same. So you want to be making sure that your summary, your about, has that effect on your audience. And the things which he's done, some great tricks, really good examples of marketing tricks in here. So one is his use of the word you and yours, makes it personal. He's used the word free. He's reassured you that there's no obligations. He's created empathy because he's explained the typical problems you may be facing, and he's made a commitment to you. All are really fantastic sales techniques. So copywriting techniques which are helpful for you. Use you or yours. I often go through and I highlight where I've used I or we or our company name and make sure that there's very many more you and yours in there. Show the benefits of using you. He's made a couple of guarantees there. Demonstrate you understand their needs, which he did in that particular example by talking about poor connectivity. Show your experience and expertise and knowledge, which he did a bit further along in those bullet points. He used short sentences and simple language, nothing which was confusing. And he gave his contact details at the bottom, which I didn't show. So those are the things that you want to do. Are you scared about putting your contact details in the public domain? Are you going to get inundated with calls? No, you're not. You will find that that does not typically happen. So there's lots of sections on LinkedIn, and I'm not going to go through them one by one. I'm just doing the top section today, just to give you a feel. What I suggest you do is to go down and then fill out each section. I'll just give you a quick whistle-top tour. Okay, so this is mine. Strong title, good use of photos. I've put my services in. My about is up there. My activity is showing. Here's my experience. So somebody said they were a freelancer, should they put them all up? This is the area you can put. I have got at the moment 5 or 6 jobs and they're all up there. So you're welcome to go and look at my profile and have a little look. And I just put them all. So you've got a really good idea of what's going on. Skills and endorsements. Next section is really important. Do ask for some recommendations. Couple of really good things about recommendations. One is it's showing credibility and that you do actually do what you say you do and you've got evidence externally. But secondly, these can be lifted and used elsewhere because they are in the public domain. So you can use them on your website, you could put them on a printed leaflet, you could send them out in an email, anywhere you want. So definitely a good idea to ask for recommendations. It's a great opportunity to do that. To ask for a recommendation, you just click on the box here which says ask for a recommendation. You type the person's name in, it finds it, and it will send that to you. You don't have to publish it. So if they write something that you're not happy with, you don't have to endorse it and put it up onto your system. So you still have control. Fill in your education, any volunteering experience that you do because people are interested in your charity work. It's very important nowadays to show that you do that kind of thing. And interests will pop up as well. So things that groups you're following and being involved in. And finally, projects. There's an opportunity here to put little mini case studies in, which I've done, and any awards you've got. So I've got an International Corporate Social Responsibility Award, and so I've popped that there because I felt that was important. Your social selling index. If you want to know how well you're doing, in Sales Navigator, which is a part of LinkedIn and is free to anybody to use, you can get an assessment of how good you are. And you can see that I rank in the top % of all marketeers on LinkedIn for quality of my LinkedIn profile. So I'm hoping that that will convince you that I really know what I'm talking about. Okay, so do look for that. You can just Google social selling index and it will, you just follow the questions and you'll get yours as well. On LinkedIn, there is an opportunity to have a company page. Should you have a company page? Potentially, if you've got more than one employee. Is it better than personal? No, typically not. LinkedIn are trying to improve its engagement, but really it's not as good, but it's useful to have. So you have followers rather than the connections on a company page. When you're doing posting, it's nowhere near as effective. So on a company page versus a personal page, so always post on a personal page for preference. Because it's a corporate thing, it's less engaging usually. So you don't get so much traction with your audience. It's not very good for direct lead generation. It's just a presence. And there's less things that you can do with it. So yes, have one if you've got multiple employees, but it isn't something that you need to spend a lot of time with. If I was going to put all of my eggs in one basket, it would be a LinkedIn personal profile and the most senior person in the business. So although LinkedIn wants you to use it, I don't really recommend it. Okay, so I'm going to switch now to showing you LinkedIn live. So bear with me while I stop sharing this and start sharing something else. So this is my, oops. Well, let me just try that again. Right, my apologies while I just sort out my technology, which was not happy. Right, so I'm hoping everybody can now see that. Can you let me know if you can't? Wonderful. Okay, so this is my personal profile and you can see it is all complete, as I said earlier. And the person who was asking about multiple jobs, here we are, Director of Rural Marketing, Visiting Lecturer at the University, KI, which I talked about, various other bits and pieces. Now, the reason why I brought you over here is to show you the search facility, because one of the questions right at the beginning, I think Ahmed asked it, I can't quite remember, was how can I get those stats that you showed me earlier? Right. The way I did it is through a tool, which is a paid-for tool on LinkedIn called Sales Navigator. You can search quite effectively by using the search bar at the top, and I could look by name, I could look by a company name, which I'm illustrating now. I can put various bits and pieces into it to see what I can find. And if I put in, for example, Brett Malone, who's here, what comes up underneath is how to refine that particular search. So I could look for Brett within posts or companies or people or within groups. And LinkedIn offers a few filters which come up down the right-hand side, and I could select on them. the filters which are available are quite restrictive. So it's quite difficult to get down to the level of, I want only to be 1 mile from my office, and I would like to be speaking to only these sorts of people, because LinkedIn would prefer you to pay for Sales Navigator. Now, or for premium. Sales Navigator is probably the best tool. Is it worth paying for? I do, for my father's business, pay for it because it's the best sales tool out there as far as I'm concerned. So I invest in it. It's about £70 a month, something like that. However, if you're on a really tight budget, you can just do it on a monthly basis, buy it for a couple of months, get the information you require out. You may even get the first month free, which you should do, to try it. You do all your work in that space of time. Create an Excel spreadsheet of what you want to do and close down Sales Navigator. So you can do it on the cheap, and for some of my clients I do it on the cheap to save them as much money as possible. Okay, so I'm going to take you into Sales Navigator now and give you a little tour of it, just to whet your appetite. So I've switched into Sales Navigator mode, all under the LinkedIn banner. You can see I'm still within LinkedIn. And if you look at the top here, it's opened it in a separate tab. So I've got both running now at the same time. And this is what you're presented with, a whole shed load of options and bits and pieces. What I want to show you is the lead filters, because what you're trying to do is to reach individuals in a specific location, maybe in a specific company. It could be a specific title, job role. So here we go. Here is the lead filter. And as you can see, down the left-hand side, there's lots and lots of different search terms, and I am going to walk you through those. So whoever asked me the question at the beginning about geography, what I did was I went in here and I typed in, and I said that postcode, and I'm going to use my own postcode, WD3 5BA, found it in the list, and it's come up with 5 miles, but there's options, so I only did 1 mile. And over here, it tells me how many people there were. That was 49,000. Okay, the map bit I didn't get in LinkedIn. I found that in Google, and I did a snip picture. So those are the two things that were put together to get that information. Did it take me long? It took me about 3 minutes. So that is how long it takes to find some of that information out. Today, I'm not interested in geography, because what I'm interested in is reaching some of the bigger companies within a particular area. Now, I believe that Chelsea Football Club is just down the road from you. So what we're going to look at is Chelsea Football Club and reaching some decision makers within Chelsea Football Club. So I'm going to go to the current company, and I'm going to put in Chelsea Football Club, and there it is. So I'm going to click on Football Club, and on the right hand side up pops there's 2,500 or more people on LinkedIn who are working at Chelsea Football Club. Good. Right, so who am I interested in? Let's get down to brass tacks here. So got lots of different people in my audience today who might be looking for different types of individuals. So we could go to job title, and we could say, okay, I'm going to be really interested in operations. So I could put Director of Operations, Head of Operations, I'm not quite sure what title is, and Operations Manager. Up pops on the right-hand side, 50 people who work in operations in Chelsea Football Club. Just like that. Now, if you tried phoning the switchboard to find that information, they would tell you to go away. And they certainly wouldn't tell you how to contact them. I've got them all here, sitting for you. Is there another way of reaching those? So I'm going to take those options off. You can do it by function. So for some of you, you might be interested in people who are working in procurement. Oops, not spelled with an F. Procurement, Oops. Let's just try that. Purchasing, there we go. And there are 4 people who are working in purchasing, just like that. Okay, and there's, you know, finance might be also quite useful for you. So I've got 28 of those. Very, very simple. I can put operations in here, which is another route. That will give me a different search. There's 362 here. I might have been better off with a slightly different selection, because this is a much broader selection than we had before, where I was going very specifically for people who were working in a particular kind of operations, whereas now we've got marketing and a few other odds and sods in there. Okay, so that is how you find the right people within a particular company. Now we could choose any other of the local companies. It could be Fever Tree, you know, 20th Century Fox, or any of it could be your local authority. Depends on what you're trying to sell, and where you should go. That gives you a flavour if you're going for a particular account. You could just lose the account and go more broadly. So for example, it may be that you are looking to sell to people, I don't know, in a particular kind of a sphere. Let's say IT, information technology, could be in computer software. So you can do it like that. And at that point, I might type in London. And they will pop up here on the right hand side. That's 330,000. And then I can go in here and I can say I only want companies which are privately held. I can select the headcount to being quite small. And I keep on refining down my target market. And there's all sorts of things that you can do. Seniority level. So I might only want directors. So I can pop that in. Another little trick is this spotlight thing here. So if you're trying to engage with people on LinkedIn, it might be a good idea to select people who are active on LinkedIn, and you can do that by selecting people who posted on it in the last 30 days. Or you could select people who changed job in the last 90 days and they're hoping to make a big difference. So those are the things that you can do. And there's lots, all of these different search facilities help you to refine and refine and refine until you find the perfect client. Right, so I'm going to take these all off again and just show you something. We'll go back into things that we can do with Chelsea Football Club. There we go. So let's pop on over here. Okay, so the next thing, which is quite interesting over here, say I wanted to, that human resources was my best thing, or procurement. I might want to save this as a lead for later, and I can press save, and it can say, I can add it to a list. Very easy to create one, create a new one, or I want to add it to this one, Chelsea Football Club, and now that's saved for me to look at later. These little buttons allow me to do various things. I can connect to them, I can view their profile, or I can message them. The various different bits and pieces which I can do. The other thing that I could do is I could save the whole lot. Now this list is a bit too big, so what I would quite like to do is just to go for the operations people. And let's just go for these four. What I can do is I can save that as a search, and I can call this Chelsea FC Ops and save that for later. And personally, what I do with this, and if you're wanting to do it on the cheap, is I would then export that into an Excel spreadsheet and work with that rather than with Sales Navigator. Once I've got my lead lists, I can go up here and I can find my lead lists, which you can see here. Here is Chelsea FC, which I've got 2 people in. And here are both of them that I've identified. Okay, and I can add a note. Contacted via phone and save that. And then next time I come in, I can remember what I've done and where I'm at. If I'd attempted to link with them, that information would be here. So it gives you a bit of a feel of the strength of LinkedIn and the various toys which are available to you. And I would really urge you just to have a play with it. Get the free trial, have a play and see how it works for you. Now I'm going to stop sharing this now and go back to my PowerPoint presentation. Okay, so I'm hoping we are back on here and I'll just catch up with myself. So difference between premium, Sales Navigator and free, just quickly and price wise. So you can see that buying premium doesn't give you very much more than having the free version. So in my view, it's a complete waste of money. So if you're going to spend money on LinkedIn, Sales Navigator is the way to go. Okay, so tricks to the approach to grabbing hold of these individuals. How do you now go from I've got a list to speaking to them? What do you require to do? Now there's quite a lot of work involved in this, and I'm just going to give you a quick overview of how that works. So you send out a request to connect. If, like Lisa, in the situation I had earlier, I had a mutual connection, I might actually ask Noshir to make the introduction, but very often that isn't the case. So you can send a request to connect, and I'll talk very briefly about how you can do that. A good proportion will ignore you. So you might need to find a different route, but for the ones who don't, there's lots of things you can do, and connection rates tend to be reasonably high, and it varies depending on the field you're in. It can be anything between 20 and 50%. The highest I think I've achieved is about 55, 56%, something like that. So if they ignore you, think something different. If they connect, they may actually write straight back to you. Oh, I've been looking for somebody who does this, and I need to speak to you. This is very, very rare. Does occasionally happen. It's happened to me, but it's rare. The vast majority will actually not send anything. They just go, yeah, all right then. If they connect with a message, then you start talking. This is building that relationship. So in real life, you start with on a face-to-face basis, you'd ask them a bit about their business, what they're doing, what their challenges are, and just having a chat. Maybe send them something useful, and I will go on to that in a moment. If they connect with no message, you're going to have to work a bit harder. So you need to follow up and to ask them a question, because they frequently won't avoid a question. So make sure that you don't ask them something which you could have answered from their profile. Ask them something different. Okay. Keep on developing the conversation. Typically, people don't respond immediately, even with the first opener. So you might have to ask something else and then something else. Up to 3 times is quite normal. So as you can see, consistency is really important here. As soon as it's really getting going and you are getting a response, this is your point where you can say, let's have a call. I'm going to be in the area. Let's have a coffee, or alternatively, let's book some time for a Zoom or something, in which case you can then do it on a one-to-one basis. Right, tricks to success here. You need to select carefully, because you don't want a list which is thousands long. You want a small number of well-defined individuals, of your best, most desirable prospects. And prepare your responses in advance so you're not lost for something to say. And as I was saying just then, 3 follow-ups is quite common. So think about what you're going to say next. And you need to be consistent a little bit on a very, very regular basis. Keep on going in and checking that they have whether they've responded, and answer as quickly as possible if they do. If you've got Sales Navigator, then use the tools that are in there to help you develop those relationships, and take it off LinkedIn as soon as you possibly can, because face-to-face is always going to be more effective than virtual. There are automation tools out there, but I recommend not using them initially. There are people who sell the service and say, we'll do it all for you. Very often you end up with lots and lots of connections and you know nothing about them, and you don't actually develop this personal relationship. Better off doing smaller numbers and really working hard at that relationship. So get the right people first and do it in batches. Get your shortlist together as described, and what you want to make sure is your connection message is genuine and not too bland. No sales. I would say no sales for the first 2 or 3 communications. So if you start off with, I want to sell you bricks, I am an electrical contractor and I'm fabulous, they're going to switch off. What you want to do is to give them a good reason why they should be connected to you. And it's usually for the benefit of both of you. The less you talk, the less you'll muck it up. So keep it short, be direct. And if you can use a bit of flattery in there, like you're a business leader in the local area or something like that, then it's going to work. So in this presentation, there's a couple of, there's an example. Something simple like this will often work. Short, sweet, to the point. In fact, LinkedIn doesn't allow you to use too many words anyway, so you should be fine. And this is a follow-up that I've got here. I thought you would be interested in this video. We've just made it about safety in the workplace. So business to business, it would be great to have your feedback or to discuss further. So you're asking for feedback. Is it any good? Now that's the question bit. And you're hoping that they're going to come back and say something to you. Right. Finally, I know I'm very tight on time because there's so much to cover with this. Posting. I've talked about generating leads, but leads are more likely to connect with you if you're active and posting. And posting does give you an opportunity to talk around your industry, show expertise, and give information out. So there's a few examples of posting that you might like to look at here. So you have a picture with posting, and that's your opportunity to attract in. Like with your portrait, with the banner picture, you have an opportunity to add a title, because LinkedIn doesn't have a title when you're posting. It just goes into straight text. So what you want to do is to put in a title. Now, how do you do that? You can do that in many photo editors, but one of the best ways is to use something like canva.com. You may see an advertised on the telly. This allows you to do it and post from it, which is fantastic. And I personally use it. I find it really good. Then you can put some text in and go into a little bit more detail. There are lots of tricks to get as many impressions of your post as possible. Bear in mind that LinkedIn only shows it to between 8 and 17% of your connections. So that's not very many. If you've only got 1,000 connections, and I say only, that's quite a lot. If you've got 1,000 connections, that's only 80 to 170 people. You want it to get to very many more than that if you possibly can. So to get to the top end of that, try to encourage other people to like and share and comment on your post. And I do that by tagging them and using hashtags. 3 to 5 hashtags is a good number. Tag as many people as you want. You can do that in the comment, actually, and that works very well. so you can punch above your weight. Here's another example, and as you can see here, I've put a comment underneath. So here's my picture. Can we predict team dynamics? Bit of text up there. Underneath, I've commented on it myself. I've put a link to it in there, but I have tagged several people. One of the people, as you can see, is Nick Hicks. And look, Nick Hicks has commented. So that's now gone to 17% of his connections. Kurt has also commented, and Gerald has also commented. So I've now got 4 comments, and my post is now being shared with a proportion of their connections, which is how you spread the word as wide as possible. This one is a video. Video has a huge uplift, so definitely use video if you possibly can. Short, under 60 seconds is the most effective, and all the same techniques for getting it shared you should use. So in this instance, having some kind of title which is engaging to your particular audience. Okay, tricks then. So video, good posting needs to be interesting. Use pictures with captions, video, comments, and likes. Now, you personally shouldn't share things. You can comment and like, but don't share, because that downweights you in the algorithm, because LinkedIn doesn't want you sharing older content. It wants you to generate new content. So that's the reason why it works like that. So posts at work, very quickly. If you add a picture, you'll get at least twice as many interactions. Adding a video, and native, you upload the whole video, you don't do a YouTube link, okay, or a Vimeo link. Whole video straight up there. LinkedIn doesn't want you to go off site, and you'll get a huge uplift. So definitely a good idea to use with native video. Have a title, add hashtags, tag people, make it relevant and useful. So what would you want to read? Okay. Are you interested in somebody else promoting an individual? Probably not, unless that is particularly important. But are you interested in top tips in something? Yes, you probably are. So make it relevant. Okay, so LinkedIn is an amazing platform. It's fantastic to use. I would encourage you to do so. This is what you need to do. Dress to impress. Have a fantastic and great profile. Utilize what I've suggested. There's lots of video and webinars and things on there. Google it. There's lots of information out there. Definitely have a look at my personal website. There's blogs on it on how to get a great website. Find leads using the search engine. Sales Navigator is probably the best search engine. Develop the relationships through email. So chat, 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 and then try and take it offline. Influence through posting, great opportunity to do that. Okay, those are your key things. Create your excellent profile. Link to your company page if you've got one, or your website. Research the companies you want to influence. Connect to the right people. Grow your credibility on the platform. That is done by posting and answering things and commenting. Keep on doing that, because that will keep you top of mind, and keep on sending messages to people who you are connected to. Do not allow them to wander off and not be interested in what you're doing. Grab them, draw them in. Reach out to new people as often as you can and on a regular basis, and use the platform. The more you use the platform, the more it will give you back. It's a two-way street. So like with referrals, the more referrals you get, the more you give, the more you get. This works the same. The more you give to LinkedIn, the more you will get back. Okay, so that concludes the LinkedIn part of this presentation. There's lots of places you can go to for more opportunities. So I want to start off with just giving you the links to places where there are bids and tenders portals for you in the local arena. As I say, this has been videoed. You will get a copy of this, so you don't need to write these links down, but they're in here. Next, like this presentation, there's another couple coming up, but really important, there's a Meet the Buyer opportunity on the 21st of June, which is face-to-face. It's a live event. Please do come. Noshir, who was on here earlier, is offering some one-to-one tender advice sessions. So please contact him. You will get an action plan and some support. Here are his contact details. Please get hold of Noshir if you'd like to take the opportunity for a one-to-one session. Out of today, I would like you just to think very quickly what your action plan is. What are you going to do next as a result of listening to me today? I'm hoping you're going to go out and, number one, improve your profile. 2, you're going to have a play with Sales Navigator and think about your target audience. And 3, I'm hoping you're going to start posting. Thank you very much for listening. Sorry I've overrun by 5 minutes. If anyone's got any questions, please do ask them. Thank you very much. That's been brilliant. Thank you very much for all the good feedback. I hope you have a great day. Anybody's got any questions, if I haven't answered them, please pop me an email. My contact details are in the presentation as well. Lisa, can I hand back to you? Did you want to, or Nelson want to say any words to close? Will you send us a presentation? Yes, I will, Denise. It's on its way.